Most people believe the greatest source of suffering in life is a lack of money. They assume that if they were rich, financially free, and no longer forced to work, happiness would naturally follow. But a man who spent more than a decade studying psychology and achieved financial freedom at a young age came to a completely different conclusion. He was the classic gifted student. He ranked among the top students in his province on China's college entrance exam and was admitted to Xiamen University. Yet during college, he chose to drop out. Why? Because he wanted to answer one question. What does it actually take for a person to be truly happy? To him, a diploma meant nothing. If psychology couldn't solve human suffering, then continuing school felt meaningless. So he left university and began wandering, studying psychology on his own, running a small counseling studio, and later entering the education business as an entrepreneur. A few years later, he succeeded. By developing his own teaching methods and online courses, he reached a point where he only needed to work 1 month a year to make a substantial income. Eventually, he turned his courses into digital products that could generate money almost automatically. He achieved the lifestyle countless people dream about. No office job, no boss, complete freedom of time, financial security, good physical health, endless free time to spend in libraries or cafes. And yet, he still wasn't happy. Why was he still anxious after achieving financial freedom? Many people fantasize. If I didn't have to work, I'd be unbelievably happy. If I had money, all my problems would disappear. But after experiencing that life himself, he discovered something surprising. Not working doesn't automatically make you happy. Sometimes it makes you even more anxious. Because when you truly gain unlimited free time and financial security, you start realizing luxury cars become boring, money loses its excitement, entertainment feels empty, so-called high-end lifestyles are often painfully hollow. He had met many wealthy people and business owners, and most of them weren't happy either. Behind the scenes, they were constantly overwhelmed by company problems, human conflicts, power struggles, fear of betrayal, endless stress, and anxiety. Some of them were even more miserable than ordinary people. On the surface, they looked glamorous. Inside, they were exhausted. After more than 10 years of research, he realized he had been looking in the wrong direction. At first, he believed unhappiness came from lacking money. Later, he thought it came from lacking time. Then he assumed he simply lacked spiritual cultivation. So he immersed himself in psychology, philosophy, religion, self-improvement theories, spiritual practices. He didn't just study them intellectually. He personally experimented with them. But in the end, he reached a shocking realization. None of those things address the true root of happiness. Because happiness, fundamentally, is not a philosophical issue. It's a physical one. The core of happiness comes down to 2 things: sleep, exercise. He explains it this way. The source of happiness isn't wealth or ideology. It's the body. Human emotions are produced by the brain. And the brain itself is part of the body. Which means the real factor determining happiness is not your income, but whether your body has enough energy, whether your sleep restores your nervous system, whether movement activates your physical state. How did he discover this? For years, he was a chronic night owl. He hated exercise and considered himself extremely lazy. But eventually, he forced himself to change. Going to bed around 9 p.m., running every morning, exercising even when it was lightly raining. And then something unexpected happened. He discovered that once he slept properly and moved his body a little, he entered a state of almost effortless happiness. A kind of happiness that didn't depend on external stimulation. Not the excitement of making money. Not the temporary thrill of traveling. Not the ego boost of being admired. But a stable state of emotional calmness, mental clarity, strong energy, a deep sense of control over life. He said, before, even tiny problems would make me anxious or emotionally exhausted. Now, most stress just rolls off me. Why are modern people so unhappy? Because most people misunderstand where happiness comes from. People chase money, status, consumption, entertainment, travel, external stimulation. But those pleasures are temporary. They can never last. Real happiness comes from the body itself. And modern lifestyles constantly destroy the body through sleep deprivation, sitting all day, lack of movement, emotional overload, chronic mental fatigue. As a result, people become increasingly anxious, empty, and emotionally unstable. The happiness system is actually very simple. After all his years of searching, he concluded that happiness fundamentally depends on just 2 things. 1, sleep. Get deep, restorative sleep and allow the body to fully recover. 2, exercise. You don't need extreme workouts. You simply need daily movement that reactivates the body. Even 10 or 20 minutes can make a huge difference. The goal isn't athletic achievement. It's restoring the body's energy circulation. His most shocking discovery. One day, a follower followed his advice. Went to bed at 10:30 p.m., woke up early, and exercised the next morning. Later, the follower messaged him. This is the first time in 6 months that I've genuinely felt happy. There was no specific reason. He just suddenly felt like smiling, emotionally light, full of energy, deeply alive. And none of it cost a single dollar. Final conclusion. After more than 10 years of searching, making mistakes, and chasing answers, he arrived at an unexpectedly simple truth. The greatest source of happiness in life is not wealth. It is physical well-being. True happiness is not something you obtain from the outside world. When the body is functioning well, happiness naturally emerges from within. So in many cases, your life may not actually be terrible, you may not truly be failing, you may not lack talent or potential. Perhaps you simply haven't had proper sleep in a very long time.